That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. We made it. There is NFL football happening not too long after we're done recording this live episode. It is Thursday, September 8th, 2022. Who better to kickstart the NFL season than Mr. Pro Football Demon, Rich Jodice? We are simultaneously broadcasting on both of our YouTube channels. I don't know how that's going to work, but Rich, how hype are you right now?
I'm very hyped. I'm very happy. I see some of my my people from TikTok are heading on over here and already jumping in the chat, so that's exciting. I have the game on right in front of me. Well, what's going to eventually be the game right in front of me, so I'm very excited.
That's awesome. A couple changes to the format. This is the first time, obviously, that we are doing the show a little bit later. This was your idea. I'm going to give you credit. You said, hey, why don't we do the show leading up into the Thursday Night Football so that we can talk about the game, maybe catch up on some news? And I said, that's an awesome idea. And number two, because we changed the format so quickly, my producer did not have a chance to put it into his schedule. So I'm producing the show. So we're not going to have the normal timer in the middle. I'm going to have it on my phone. We are still going to try to stick to that 30 minutes. I mean, that, after all, is the name of the show. But I'll have the timer running. We're going to take some questions if you guys have questions. We're not going to do the whole back and forth questions if you've watched the show in the past. We're going to free flow a little bit here, Rich. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm down. It's NFL game day. Are you ready to get this thing started?
I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
All right. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. NFL Kickoff Edition starts now. So there's one, I figured we'd run through a few news items, and like I said, we can kind of keep an eye on the chat and address any questions that might come up. But there's something that I saw earlier today. Pro Football Talk put it out there, but it was originally on ESPN. I don't know if you saw this. Russell Wilson actually said that Seattle tried to trade him twice.
Yes.
Or he said a few times.
A few times. I think it was twice, officially twice I think there were two teams that were named, right?
Correct. Two teams that were named. 2018 draft, they tried to trade with Cleveland for the number one overall pick with the goal of getting Josh Allen. And 2019 draft tried to trade with Arizona for the number one pick with the goal of getting Kyler Murray.
Oh, was that? Okay, so I thought I heard Patrick Mahomes. I heard that they were also interested in Patrick Mahomes when he was coming out. So those are the two names I heard, were Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I didn't hear the Kyler Murray thing.
I saw this Kyler Murray as well. Maybe it was all three of them. But here's the bigger question. Was Seattle so desperate to get rid of their multiple Super Bowl attending, one Super Bowl winning quarterback who is at least MVP caliber and possible future Hall of Famer? Why are they trying to get rid of him? Or something we don't know?
Well, when I heard the Mahomes and Josh Allen thing, I thought, okay, so these are guys that just have rocket arms. They have this big it factor. They're bigger. Mahomes isn't a small guy. Josh Allen's a giant. So they had kind of an X factor that you can say Russell Wilson didn't have. He just happens to be a good quarterback. So when you look at it through that lens, you can kind of say, okay, well, you're bringing in, if they were that high on those guys, you're going to bring in a guy who's cheap. And if you trade Russell Wilson, you get some good compensation for that. So, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense, but when we look at it through the lens of what these guys have become, you can say, wow, that would have made all the sense in the world. The thing that I think is interesting, though, is Seattle could possibly have the first pick, a top 5 pick this year. They seem to know how to scout quarterbacks. There are a lot of good quarterbacks coming out.
I don't know. They did. Draft. They were excited for Drew Lock to come over.
Okay. So. Well, yeah.
But yes, with regards to the other quarterbacks, I agree with you there.
With regards to the other quarterbacks, they got Russell Wilson. What was he, a 4th rounder? I think he was.
Third round.
Third rounder. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what really stood out to me was. So do they land a stud quarterback in this draft? Because obviously they have an eye for quarterbacks. But that's interesting, though. They were going to just turn their backs on Russell like that.
Because franchise quarterback is what it's all about at the end of the day. You have a franchise quarterback. What would it take to a guy at that point who's still in his 20s? This is 4 years ago, so like 29 years old, who's already taken you to multiple Super Bowls and won one. I get a little bit the contract side of it, right? Because the whole adage is, oh, you want a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. But to shop him multiple times, they're like to me that speaks to more. Like there was something behind the scenes saying that like there was just, whether it was Carroll's relationship with Wilson or some of his teammates, he's a weird guy. We can all agree on that. Any additional thoughts here?
Well, it is strange because he did seem like the type of franchise quarterback you would want. He always came out, go Hawks, go Hawks. Now he's, Broncos country, let's ride. So he seems like a guy who he has his finger on the pulse of the fan base. Always wants to say the right thing at the podium. He doesn't really make headlines. He's married, good family man. So it just seems like the type of guy you'd want as your franchise quarterback. So it is a little bit of a head scratcher that they would want to move off him, especially after winning a Super Bowl and going to another Super Bowl with him.
Well, they got their wish, and now they get to roll out Geno Smith with Drew Lock as their backup. And on that note, I do want to address a question that came up in the chat. FYXS, Fixes, I don't really know how, I'm going to say Fixes, asks, do you think the Seattle Seahawks are going to be as bad as people say they are? I think they will be very underrated. They have a balanced roster besides the quarterback. Rich, I'll let you take this one first.
So this is something, I'm assuming you're a Seahawks fan, because this is something that fans tend to say about their teams no matter how bad they are. And I've said it before, and I'm sure you've said it before about the Dolphins, Brian. You look at the team, you love everybody. You think, oh, this guy's not as bad as people think he is. But looking at it from
you read the beat reporters, and they're glowing.
Right. But looking at this team, they're not going to be good. They're going to have trouble scoring points. I know what Geno Smith is firsthand. He was a Jets quarterback. We saw what the team looked like with Geno Smith when Russell Wilson hurt his finger last year. They had trouble moving the ball. I don't see much of a change. Pete Carroll is not a brilliant offensive mind. I don't think they have a brilliant offensive mind on that coaching staff to really open up this offense. And I think the only reason that offense might have popped in certain points was because of Russell Wilson. So I think they are going to be as bad as advertised, if not worse.
Yeah, I had a poll up yesterday. We had to do daily polls on the Legit Football Twitter @_Legit Football. And I was asking who everyone thought would get the number one overall pick. And Seattle was number one.
Yeah.
And there was some comments for the Bears and the Falcons and the Texans, but Seattle actually won that poll. So that kind of tells you where everyone else thinks Fix.
I voted for Seattle.
There you go. I had been on Seattle as number 32 all year. I kind of think it's going to be Chicago, but that's another point. But yeah, Fixes. If you're a Seattle fan, I'm sorry, buckle in. It's not going to be a great year. Let's address the next news item. CMC is already on the injury report. I don't think this is anything major, but it's just like there was you and I have talked on this show about the fear, especially from fantasy perspective, of taking Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
And he ends up on the very first injury report with a sore shin. Now, let's be clear, it didn't limit him in practice. Is this much ado about nothing, or is this like, are your radar arrows up here?
I mean, it does, your heart kind of jumps into your throat if you drafted him, especially with a high pick, which you obviously did, because seeing him on the injury report for anything is, gut wrenching. I want to believe this is nothing. I just want to believe, okay, maybe he bumped his shin a little bit, but would I be at all shocked if a couple minutes before game time they said CMC is not going to play? I wouldn't. In the league we did last night, I drafted him. So that's the only share of CMC I have this year, but I want to say it's much ado about nothing, but you have to keep an eye on it just because it's CMC.
Right, because he's got that history. I hope, and SH Cryptic as a Panthers fan, I hope for your sake that he just like ran into a coffee table.
Yeah,
it's just like a bruise, and that it's not going to be anything more than that.
And I like the pairing of him and Baker. I think Baker would utilize him pretty well. So I really want to see that. That would be fun to look at.
Speaking of injury report of guys who have a little bit of a history, and it just popped up, George Kittle, not only on the injury report, is actually trending towards not playing. All the reports, he has a groin injury that, in Shanahan's own words, he didn't feel very good on Wednesday, didn't practice again today. Quick thoughts on that?
That's one of the reasons why I stayed away from him in fantasy. He's one of the guys that I just associate with injuries. He seems to pop on the injury report every year. The draft capital is way too high for me. this with George Kittle again, it's something that could this last 2 weeks, could it last 5 weeks? You never know. I don't trust George Kittle. I don't trust him to start a game and leave in the first quarter. That's another thing that just I shake my head at that because it's I don't trust him. Like I said.
I have him in one league. It is a dynasty league where I traded for him last year. So I didn't actually draft him in any of my leagues this year. And I'm in like 10 leagues, I think. Yeah. It's getting a little out of hand.
Yeah. Fix says he is a Seattle fan.
Fix confirms that he's a Seahawks fan. Rich called it. Hey, like I said, I would love it. You'd almost be glad that if your guys are competitive, but you still end up with a top pick, because then you can get that quarterback and hopefully arrow up from there. I also wanted to point out earlier, we all know Takaido Luna likes to troll, especially with Rich here. Daniel coming out with a little fire back at Takaido, so wanted to put that out. Next news item, this one's spicy. We've been talking a lot about Romeo Doubs. Well, guess what? Alan Lazard is not practicing. Somebody stepped on him. That's literally the injury. Somebody stepped on Alan Lazard. He has missed multiple practices.
And I heard that could linger. Like he might miss a few games because of this. So I don't know. So now what's interesting
did Dobbs step on him? Did Sammy Watkins? Like, who stepped on him?
Christian Watson.
Christian Watson gets back from injury and steps on Lazard.
So that's the thing. Okay, you're a huge Romeo Doubs guy. You turned me on to Romeo Doubs, and then within this past week, I think it was, Aaron Rodgers comes out and talks about Christian Watson and says, "We've never seen a receiver like this." So does that shy you away from maybe starting Romeo Doubs in a flex spot? Are you still buying Doubs, or because of that, are you maybe selling him a little bit, or just holding and kind of waiting to see what happens?
Well, I am buying him, but like most rookies, unless it's a first round, like no-brainer pick, I'm not going to start him in week one unless a really, really deep roster. I've got Doubs in a ton of leagues, so I really am backing up my belief. I'm not starting him in any league unless it's a best ball and he goes off and it'll automatically start him. Yeah. So it's definitely a wait-and-see approach. I think what Rodgers meant with regards to Watson is that particular style of receiver is definitely something Green Bay's never pursued before. Watson's huge and fast, right? He's kind of not exactly a DK, but kind of in that same, at least, realm as a guy who's just big, strong, but also blazing fast. And I think that's what Rodgers meant. Not that he is, from a talent perspective, like lights out. I'm not saying he's not, but I just think that style of receiver is what he was referring to when he was on McAfee's show. But definitely something to monitor. I'm curious if this is the once a year Sammy Watkins scores 3 touchdowns and then disappears game.
Watch Randall Cobb this week one. I mean, if you were desperate for a receiver, I would roll the dice with Randall Cobb maybe.
That's not terrible. If you're doing DFS, I haven't set my DFS lineups for the week, but I'd love to look at Cobb's pricing. That's a guy who Rodgers clearly trusts, and without Lazard there, he might just pepper Lazard with, Cobb with a bunch of receptions. So something to monitor there. Let's talk about the Cardinals real quick. I figure we'll get through the news, do halftime, and then we'll talk about the Thursday night, the preview game for the last 15 minutes. J.J. Watt not practicing multiple days. Zach Ertz not practicing multiple days. Rondale Moore injured his hamstring today. And let's all not forget that DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games. And they play the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a bloodbath?
I don't. I am. Hearing Patrick Mahomes come out and saying we're going to kind of have a wide receiver by committee, I just kind of shook my head and said, "This is why I am picking you guys not to make the playoffs this year." That's not something you want to hear Patrick Mahomes say. He doesn't have that knockout punch anymore. So I don't know. Look, I'll say again from a fantasy perspective, if you are desperate for a receiver, keep an eye on AJ Green this game. AJ Green could get peppered with targets and have a big week one.
How do you feel about Marquise Hollywood Brown?
I've never been a huge Hollywood Brown guy. I know him and Kyle are buddies. But I think AJ Green would be that security blanket he leans on, especially in PPR. I think he would get the receptions. Brown could get loose and go deep for maybe a touchdown or two. Those two guys in the passing game, I say AJ Green probably has the higher floor. Marquise Brown probably has the higher ceiling because he has the home run potential. But I don't know if this is going to be a bloodbath. I don't know that we're looking at the same Kansas City Chiefs that we're used to seeing. And when Patrick Mahomes struggles and he starts to struggle, it's just his inconsistencies continue, and that we've seen them last over games, not just a quarter. Right. So I'm not, I wouldn't count out the Arizona Cardinals in this game.
We do differ here. I'm not as low. I do have them not winning the division, but I have them being neck and neck with the Chargers. I believe in Andy Reid specifically. It's not necessary. I mean, I'm a Mahomes fan too, but I'm really excited to see what exactly that looks like. Juju's starting to get some heat. Let's get a couple more. We got about 2 minutes left towards halftime. I know we don't have the timer, so I'm kind of like checking the clock as we go. Saints extended their center, Eric McCoy. We don't need to say anything. Good job, Saints. Here's an interesting one. Jets left tackle Dwayne Brown not practicing. Zach Wilson out until at least week 4. Go ahead and shop for your Brady jersey.
How much? You want me to talk about the Jets? We're going to need a lot more time before halftime because I have a lot to say.
Quick refresher for those maybe who are just tuning into the show for the first time. We each have wagers. Rich and I. He started this by saying that if Daniel Jones, yes, Danny Dimes, currently the quarterback of the Giants, is at any point during the 2022 season, correct, on the Miami Dolphins, that I have to buy a Daniel Jones jersey and wear it on 2 episodes, I believe?
After the season.
After the season. So it could be correct.
Yeah.
All right.
So if he I think he's going to be kicked off the Giants, and I think the Dolphins could scoop him up. Yeah.
All right. Well, on the flip side, I said, well, this was when Zach Wilson first got injured, 2 to 4 weeks, or they had the diagnosis. I said that if Joe Flacco starts 5 games or more, then you have to buy a Tom Brady Patriots jersey and do a TikTok video in it.
And I'm convinced you had insider information. Because the fact that you chose 5 games is...
We are legit football for a reason, you know? But yeah, quickly, the news item, I just wanted to remind everybody about that and get you a little dig. Aaron Donald drafted a retirement letter and gave it to the Rams during contract negotiations back in May. Apparently was ready to send it to the NFL. Your thoughts?
I think that was just a negotiating tactic. I think he wanted the team to look a certain way. He wanted to make sure they were still going to be making a push for it this year. Wanted to be paid. You know, he's getting up there. He's getting closer to the end of his career. So I think it was just a negotiation. I don't think I don't think he would have retired. I think it was just like, hey, you know, give me some money, make some good moves, and I'll stick around.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just a negotiating tactic, but I thought it was a fun idea of him like, oh, look at me drafting this letter. It's like I'm shopping around for this retirement. All right, we are at halftime. Ding, 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 whatever the noise that Anthony usually makes. This is the part, guys, where I always remind you, if you haven't already, sign up for Legit Football. It's a free daily newsletter, 5 minutes or less. Get caught up on the news. We're going to be covering all sorts of different types of content during the season. We've been around covering the offseason, all those stories, but now we're actually covering the games. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of fantasy information for you to know. There's a lot of sports betting information for you to know. We're going to bring it all to you. We're going to break it down, tell you what you need to know Monday through Friday. Just go to legitfootball.com, enter your email address. It will always be free. No reason not to do it. Rich, let them know where they can find you.
Pro Football Demon on YouTube, TikTok, and I will be tweeting during the NFL games this season, so follow me on Twitter. Sign up for Legit Football. Usually when I do this, it points the other way when I watch it back, so I'm going to do this.
I don't know. It's the cameras are all over the place, and I don't have a producer, so.
The Legit Football newsletter is fantastic. I want to tell you guys to sign up for it if I didn't think it was worth it, so check it out.
Awesome, and Pro Football Demon is an absolute joy. I enjoyed the video today with the NFC, as well you should. The NFC South is hilarious. Everyone you do is hilarious. All right, so let's spend the second half talking about an actual football game that actually matters, a game that, in my opinion, we did our season prediction show. I picked this as the actual Super Bowl, Bills versus Rams. So we don't have a particular topic or segments or notes. I'm just going to throw it to you first, Rich. What are your thoughts on this game? And we'll do picks kind of at the end, but how do you see this game playing out?
I don't think it's going to be as close a game as people might think. So without giving you my picks, I will say I am concerned about the Bills secondary going up against this offense. I think they're going to have their hands full. And that's really all I can say without without giving away who
Okay, so give your pick then. Give your pick and then give why. How about that?
I think the Rams are going to win for a few reasons. First of all, the secondary. They have too much firepower. I think they're going to come out. They're going to pass at an intense rate. I think they're going to try to go for a knockout punch early. They might get it with those secondary issues Buffalo's having. And last season, the games Buffalo lost, I mean, they lost. Anytime they were in a close game last season, they lost. I think they were 0-6 or something like that in close games and tight games. So if this game is a little tight, I don't see them, and that's not just during the season too. That includes the playoffs. They don't seem to play well in close games. If this game is close and they're going back and forth, I don't see them coming out on top.
Yeah, I'm with you on this for a few reasons. I am picking the Rams. First of all, if you're into betting and you're listening or watching to this show, hopefully if you're listening, it's going to come out probably after the show, so it'll be too late. But if you're watching us live, the Rams are getting 2.5 points. This is the defending Super Bowl champions playing at home, celebrating their recent Super Bowl in a game, a kickoff game, where the defending Super Bowl champs are 13-3 since 2004 in these Thursday night kickoff games. And the Rams, under Sean McVay, in 6 seasons, have never been under 500. And by losing this game, they'd go to 500. Not to say that's not impossible, but to me, and then finally you throw the Bills secondary. The fact that Tre'Davious White is on injured reserve and not available for this game, he's a top 10 corner or better. You're starting at least one rookie in the secondary against a McVay offense with Stafford, Kupp. Oh, and by the way, they have Allen Robinson now.
Yeah.
Akers is healthy. Henderson is healthy. The offensive line is a little bit of a question. We'll at least address that. The Rams' offensive line, they've got a number of new starters across that, whether it's Noteboom, he had 17 starts, or they lost their guard as well, versus a Buffalo pass rush, which was already good and added Von Miller, so he's switching sides.
Yeah. And one thing just to add to that, we don't know the severity of Stafford's elbow issue. They're saying they're downplaying and saying it's not a big deal, but
they said it's 100. He said he's 100%.
Right. So, but that could be coach speak. It could be everything else. If Stafford does have some lingering issues and he gets hit in the right spot, goes out early, that could change the trajectory. I always have trouble with that word of this game.
I would say, yeah, if there's a chance for Buffalo to win, it's going to be the Bills pass rush overwhelms that offensive line. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame likely left tackle in Andrew Whitworth who retires, and Joe Noteboom showed a lot of promise when he came in, but it's a little bit different, when you're starting off going against Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, Oliver in the middle. Yeah. It's just, that's going to be the key. I still think the Rams win, and at the very least, if you're going to bet it, take the Rams 2.5. Yeah, I just think that's a crazy line. So I'm picking the Rams to win. You're also picking the Rams to win, correct?
The Rams to win, yeah.
Right.
And you have the Bills winning the Super Bowl.
I do, which is what I was going to say next. So I think the Rams win this game, but I think it's an entirely different picture at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So any last thoughts with the game? Do you want to talk about? We've got some questions coming into the chat. We can kind of address those. We got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, let's check some of the questions here.
All right. Well, Fixes, who is our resident Seahawks fan, is asked a number of questions. Let's see if we can get to that. Do you think the Seahawks will win Week 1? Because we know how Russell will take sacks, and the Seahawks can and will game plan around that and can force Russell to make bad throws or giving sacks. This guy, he's clinging to his hope, and I love it. I love it.
I know you would love to have Seattle come out and beat Russ in that revenge game, but I don't see it happening. I would be absolutely shocked if I have the Broncos winning the Super Bowl, by the way. I would be absolutely shocked.
And I don't have them in the playoffs, but
you don't have them. I would be absolutely shocked if they came out and dropped Week 1 to the Seattle Seahawks. I do think Seattle might, depending on the whole Trey Lance thing. Now the Niners roster is insane. So it is a steep hill to climb, but if Trey Lance is Jordan-esque bad, Jordan Love-esque bad. I
was going to say Michael Jordan bad.
If he is Jordan Love-esque bad, then perhaps they could win that game. But wins are going to be hard to come by as a Seattle fan. I think you need to buckle up and just get ready for it.
Yeah, one thing I will note, I think the game is going to be closer than the spread is, and I actually did pick Seahawks to cover the spread, but not to win. I just think it's in Seattle. It's going to be packed. People are going to be there to either cheer against Russell Wilson or the fact that he's coming back and the fact that the Seahawks are still 0-0 clearly fixes. Now is the time when we all have hope. You as a Jets fan have hope. You know, I no, you don't. Okay, that was very exciting. Yeah, you guys have just as of course the Jets hope died a while ago. But the point is, this is the time of year when everybody has hope. I think it's going to be close. I think Carroll will want to have a very ball control offense. I think they're going to really rely on the run game. Their offensive line, from all the reports that came out of training camp, was performing much better in the run than they were in the pass game. So I think Carroll's aware of that. Carroll wants to run the ball 50 times a game, regardless of what the rest of when he had Russell Wilson. So I think you're going to see that the Broncos defense is more susceptible to the run than the pass. They have a strong pass rush. They have a very good secondary with Surtain and Justin Simmons. So I think Carroll knows that. They're at home. I just think the Broncos are too talented. So I do think the Broncos win, but 6.5 points, I'm kind of feeling Seattle to cover that.
I think I would still take the Broncos. Davis has a fantasy football question if you want to take a look at that.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to put up here next. Let's have a little fantasy love. Got about 8 minutes left. Davis Andrade or Andrade. Apologies if I mispronounce. All these names, I'm bad at pronouncing names. I'm just going to.
That's why I just said Davis.
Davis. Let's keep it there. I went too far. Is Cam Akers a good flex play in fantasy for tonight? Do you want to take this one first?
I think Cam Akers is risky this season. I would ask you who else you have as an option. It's tough to say whether he's a good player or not when I'm not weighing it against somebody else. I know they like Darrell Henderson. I know they're going to come out passing, and you know I'm not too high on Akers this season. But if you don't have anybody else that you think could perhaps take that slot, then obviously you probably have to start Akers. What are your thoughts on Akers?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You got to kind of know the players on the bench if you have nobody on the bench. But let's assume there's another good option. I'll give the general thoughts on Akers. And Davis, if you want to tell us in the chat who you have on your bench, like we'll happily say, start this guy or start Akers. Sean McVay said during the offseason that he feels he has 2 starting running backs with him and Darrell Henderson. They're both healthy. I think they want to manage his workload, especially his first game back. He came back from that Achilles injury at the end and did not look the same. All reports are that he's back to full speed. That's not my point. My point is that I think McVay is aware of that, and he's not going to get 25 touches unless he's just red hot. But I think the way to attack this Bills defense, as we've already talked about, is through the air. So I think you're going to see a lot in the passing game. As a result, you're not going to see as many opportunities for Akers. The Bills are going to put up points too. So it's just going to be one of those kind of high-scoring slugfests where you don't see as many points for the running backs. Is Akers a good flex play? Depends on who else you have on your bench.
It says Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. So
I think Christian Kirk might have the higher floor if it's PPR.
I'm actually really high on the Jaguars this week against Washington. By the way, quick plug, Rich and I are doing our pick shows on Fridays, starting tomorrow, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, where we were going to go through all the games and pick them against the spread, straight up. Don't know exactly how we're going to do that. I released my picks on Twitter today. I'm going to be doing them every Thursday. I really like Jacksonville to win that game, and Washington is actually, I think, has 3.5 points there. So Christian Kirk, I like this Doug Peterson offense in Jacksonville. I think I would kind of go Christian Kirk in that flex spot over Akers. What do you think?
I think so. I think he's got the higher floor. He's going to be good for between 3 to 5 receptions, I would think. And for a guy like Cam Akers, getting that 30 to 50 points in fantasy might be, especially if he's splitting carries with Henderson, that could be a little tough to get.
Yeah, I agree. If you have Kirk, I'm leaning Kirk. Quickly want to mention XR says, I want the Broncos to win the Super Bowl. I'm a big fan of them. I just don't see it happening. Do you want to tell XR real quick why you picked the Broncos?
XR, you have nothing to worry about. You have Russell Wilson as your quarterback now. I don't think people realize.
He was so good, Seattle wanted to get rid of him multiple times.
Look, Russell Wilson was the only reason Seattle was viable anywhere. This guy made Jacob Hollister a fantasy option for a while. He would take guys that you would not ordinarily know about in fantasy football and turn them into something. I don't know that Tyler Lockett on a different team would have popped like he did without Russell Wilson. So, I think just Denver has a very talented roster, and now you're adding this caliber of quarterback to that roster. We've seen it happen twice in the past 2 years with Tom Brady, and we saw it happen with Matthew Stafford. Now we're going to see it happen with Russell Wilson. This is going to be another high-caliber quarterback going to a talented team and taking them to the big game. Got nothing to worry about, XR. And if I'm wrong, don't come back and tell me I'm wrong, please.
XR, I hope you are now buying it like Rich is selling it. I'm not quite there, but I love the talent of the Broncos. I could certainly see it happening. Davis, quick shout out. Thanks, guys. I hope we're right. Join us next week and let us know if Christian Kirk, and come back in the chat, and we'll either apologize or, ask for a portion of your winnings.
And look, if anybody out there is suffering for a flex player or a wide receiver, we just mentioned too, Randall Cobb, AJ Green. I think those two guys could help you out this week.
All right, so we've got a few other questions. Takota Luna says, who has the better season? Danny Pesos, which I gotta admit, I have not heard that particular nickname for Daniel Jones. Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, or Rich's black beard hairs?
Oh, Rich's black beard hairs.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Come on, easy money. Money line, definitely.
Trevor Lawrence, I'm going.
Yeah, I agree. I am actually big on Trevor Lawrence this year. I think he had all the talent in the world, and he just got Urban Meyered. We're going to make that a verb now. Yeah. Doug Peterson has done wonders with quarterbacks of lesser talent and potential than Trevor Lawrence. I like the moves they made. I don't think Jacksonville's going to make the playoffs by any means, but I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. And I definitely think he's going to have a good fantasy season.
Do you think, now I know we did our predictions, but did you pick Jacksonville to finish ahead of the Titans, or you still think the Titans will finish ahead of Jacksonville?
I still think the Titans will finish it. I actually put here's another plug for the Legit Football Twitter, @_Legit Football. I put out a thread today with all my predictions, the predictions that we had, but all of the divisions 1 through 4 for every division, how they're going to finish. I did have the Titans second. I had the Jaguars third and the Texans fourth. So I did have the Jags ahead of Houston, but not quite ready to put them against. Vrabel's such a good coach. They're still a talented team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but not ready to put below Jacksonville.
We forget what the only reason Doug Peterson got fired, apparently, this just came out too, was their owner was apparently coming in and telling them how to coach the team. And they kind of bumped heads, and that's really the only that whole thing that he pulled in the Giants game, where it looked like he was jockeying for position when he pulled Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. I think that was just the excuse they needed to get rid of him, but he shouldn't have been fired. He's a phenomenal coach. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville surprised a lot of us. Not quite like the Bengals did, but in some similar.
There's a few teams I'm watching closer than others, and Jacksonville's one of them. I just feel like they've made the right moves. If Etienne's healthy and everything that he says they're going to be, their defense got spicy at times last year. Josh Allen sacking Josh Allen, if we remember that, right? When awesome. they held the Bills to 6 points. So they're just one of those teams where I don't think they're playoff worthy, but they're going to be fun to watch. And Jacksonville hasn't been fun to watch in a while.
Yeah,
and James Robinson's back. And apparently at full speed. Yeah. Apparently they're not going to hold him back. I've got Robinson in a few leagues, so I'm not sure how I feel about starting him, but that's good news. All right. Fixes in response to our conversation earlier. I just want to win this game. I don't care if we lose every other. He's referring to week 1. Yeah. As a Seahawks fan, he wants to beat Russell Wilson in week 1 against the Broncos. He can lose the rest. And Takado, always trolling. Broncos ain't winning the Super Bowl. I mean, if Peyton and Papa John's comes out with a Super Bowl pizza, maybe then. Quick notes on this, because I know you're high on Detroit. I believe you have them in the playoffs.
I don't have them at 17-0. Yeah, I do have.
But XR, you just gave XR all the confidence in the world with regards to Denver, and now he's thinking the Lions are going 17-0. So I guess they're playing the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Your thoughts on Detroit?
XR, I call him Fish. He comments on basically all of my TikTok videos. So thank you very much for that, Fish. The Detroit I think they will surprise people this year. They're going to play hard. They're going to be one of those teams that are going, I think they're going to be in a lot of games. They may not come out ahead of a lot of, when I looked at their schedule, I saw a lot of games that could have went either way. And I kind of gave Detroit the nudge just because I like the passion they have. They have a lot of weapons on offense. I'm a big DJ Chark believer. That's the timer right here.
Oh, you heard that. I didn't know if it came through. Yes, 30 minutes are up. There is one other question I do want to get to quickly because Takeda Luna actually asked a legitimate question, and he says, do you think the Colts win 12 games? We were just talking about the AFC South. I want your take. I'll give my take, and then we'll wrap up the show. The game itself starts in about 15 minutes.
I think 12, I'd probably arrive at between 10 to 12. I think 12 is a little bullish. If I had to guess, I would probably say 11.
I'm actually thinking the exact same. I'm kind of seeing them at like 11-6, but it's very realistic they could get 12. I mentioned on our season prediction show that they have, I believe, according to Warren Sharp's schedule analysis, the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL, on top of having a very talented roster who I thought was really good last year and just got winced. We're coming up with all sorts of verbs here. So they got winced.
We got to make T-shirts, man. Come
we
on.
do. Winced, Urban Meyered. But yes, could they win 12? Yes. The AFC just in general is there's just so many hard teams. Even that division, I think Houston will be better. I think Jacksonville will be better. Yeah. Even though they have an easy schedule, 12 wins is going to be tough to come by, so I'm going to go with no. We did it without a producer, Rich.
Wow.
We made it to the NFL season, and we made it through this show. How are you feeling?
I feel great, man. I love this format. This was fantastic. I feel like we could go on for like another hour and a half.
And we just might on Friday. So a couple quick notes here. We are going to go to this format going forward. We're going to have a fantasy episode on Tuesdays, still at the 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I am going to have a different guest every week, and we'll probably do a question for that. But all of the rest of them, I think we're going to do this free flow. The one thing I'm going to have, Rich, every week is Friday. So if you want to see the two of us together, I think the simulcast thing kind of worked. Yeah. So we'll do on both channels for the 30-minute show, which we'll do all the game picks. We'll talk about spreads, maybe some betting advice. And then we'll do overtime maybe just on your show where we can just do questions. And maybe we talk for another hour. Who knows? But make sure that'll be 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific every Friday. It'll be the Pro Football Demon and me. Wednesday, here's a nice little tease. We're going to do a power ranking show at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. I've got at NFL_stats. Jimmy Ray is going to be doing the power ranking show with me. It's going to start in week 2. So we're going to come up with some graphics that'll get released around that, but lots of cool content to come. We will have a couple more shows with Rich doing the Monday Night Football and Thursday night. You are going to be with me on this coming Monday and next Thursday as well. So if you like these pregame shows, make sure to check those out. Any last words to the audience before we watch some real football here?
Jimmy Ray at NFL Stats is an absolute madman. Follow him on Twitter. His Twitter blows me away. It's fantastic. We do have one question here I want to get to. Who's your dark horse for MVP? Go ahead, Brian. Dark horse MVP.
Dark horse for MVP. I'm gonna. My first guess is what I think you're gonna pick. So I'm gonna try to pivot and say Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Oh my God, I was gonna say Kirk Cousins.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Derek Carr. I'm like, he's gonna say Carr, so I'm gonna say Cousins.
All right, you say Kirk Cousins. I'll say Tom Brady because I don't think anybody expects him to win MVP.
So that's not a dark horse. No, come on, no. Roll it back. This is the GOAT.
Russell Wilson.
Okay, there we go. Right. Fixes, that was for you. You heard it here first. Russell Wilson is going to win the MVP in 2022. Enjoy some actual football, guys. Enjoy the game tonight. Catch me and Rich tomorrow. If you want to watch live, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and we'll be on overtime after that. Or if you're just listening, just make sure to tune in. This has been 30 minutes of football with legit football. Let's go watch some football. See, now I'm a producer. Now I got to click the countdown button.
That was the most awkward piece.
That was because I wasn't ready. All right. Deuces. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.